The media melting down after the Durham report exposed that the FBI and DOJ had, quote, no justification to launch the Trump-Russia probe. The press that endlessly pushed the phony narrative that Donald Trump was a secret Russian spy and his campaign was colluding with Moscow now look like complete fools. You would think that they would turn in their Pulitzer Prizes and apologize to the American people. Nope, not a chance.
The former president had predicted that Durham's probe would uncover, quote, the crime of the century. Doesn't look like it actually did that.
Durham's whole thing is predicated on, it's like a rabbit hole conspiracy.
His conspiracy theories while walking through the fevered swamps of Trumpism, well, ended in probably career-ending reputational damage.
This was a whole big nothing.
4 years, I don't know how many millions of dollars, I don't know how many people, how many of his friends he hired in his office to do what? To issue a basically blatantly false report.
Durham's report also finding that the FBI gave markedly different treatment to the Clinton and Trump campaigns and ignored Hillary's plan to tie Trump to Putin in order to distract from her email scandal. The special counsel uncovering that both Barack Obama and Joe Biden knew about Hillary's dirty deeds. They got briefed on Clinton's shady scheme to link Trump to Russia, but still pushed the collusion hoax anyway. Shameful. So here, and now the crooked investigators are running for cover.
What you have with John Durham is like it's a big fat nothing.
This is a predictable, sad ending to an investigation that never should have taken place.
I vehemently disagree with Mr. Durham's characterizations of what we did in the report, and it's very simple. He betrays a deep misunderstanding of not only what we knew at the time, but how we make these decisions.
Okay, so Jesse, I'll start with you. So Hillary Clinton puts together the deal, pays for the dossier. The dossier, she ends up getting fined because she uses it as a legal expense instead of a campaign contribution. She started this whole thing, and Barack Obama, Joe Biden knew about it, and the media on the left is saying that this is all a conspiracy and that it's a waste of money.
No wonder you didn't put anybody in prison. You'd have to put the entire Democratic Party in prison for this. And I didn't expect prison because I look at this thing and look at who Durham didn't even interview. He didn't interview McCabe. He didn't interview Comey. He didn't interview Glenn Simpson, Mark Elias, Peter Strzok. Mm-hmm. This isn't a real investigation, and Durham didn't even subpoena James Comey. So if you're going to do a real investigation and not subpoena the FBI director, it's a joke. So do you realize the FBI lied to the media, and then the media reported the FBI lies? Then the FBI guys get fired, then they get hired by the media to tell more lies, and then the media is just happy that no one went to prison for lying.
Yep.
Do you actually think any of these people in those montages read the Durham report? It doesn't look like they read it at all. And I was walking into Fox today, and I see this chyron at the bottom of the screen. It says, Durham says, the FBI treated Trump and Hillary differently. Really? I mean, Hillary bleached her server and smashed BlackBerries with hammers, and then they tried to put Trump in prison for obstruction. Mm-hmm. Think about that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you have Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton coming back from Europe, China, and the Middle East with boatloads full of cash, and Trump is the bad guy. Now, the Republicans are out there saying that, oh, when we get in there, we need to get rid of the FBI. That's never going to happen. What they need to do is this. They need to appoint a loyalist as FBI director. Kind of the way that JFK appointed his brother to run the Justice Department. You either need a loyalist or you need some guy that you have so much dirt on that he wouldn't even try anything.
You know, the amazing part of it is that there will be no indictments. This is the end of it. They can say, look, we tried Dancheco, we tried Sussman, there were acquittals. We got one low-level guy, Kevin Kleinman, who was a lawyer who pled guilty to altering a document. He's practicing law. Can American people even have faith in the justice system? And the Democrats talk about threat to democracy. Is the deep state the biggest threat to democracy?
Right. I mean, as I said the other day on America's Newsroom, I might owe Jason Chaffetz an apology for making fun of his book that came out a few years ago. I was making fun of the title. I thought it was a little overdramatic. But I think that you look at this, and what's strange to me, and what strikes me the most, is that all of Trump's enemies, Alvin Bragg, the partisans at the FBI, Hillary Clinton, everything they do is an overreach. And it just makes him stronger. Now, they had to go through a hell of a lot. And you also think about the younger people, the staff, or not even necessarily younger, but people who were just kind of on the periphery that had to get lawyers. They had to be subjected to terrible years when they would love to have been serving the country and been like focused on that, to have to go through that. And, you know, the Clinton administration, a lot of those younger people went through the same thing because of what Clinton did with Lewinsky and on. And that happens to people in government. So you wonder, like, who's going to want to serve? But like in Pac-Man, you know the game Pac-Man? So he goes along, and when he eats more fruit, he gets stronger. It's like every time they go after the president, he ends up being stronger because he's like, I told you so. I told you it was a Russia hoax. And I would love to see any reporter who had one of these sources, whether it's Adam Schiff, or maybe not even have to be that high level, doesn't have to be an elected leader, someone that they could have on their program and say, you told me this, this, and this. That all turns out not to be true. Explain yourself. I mean, that would be great television. It would be good journalism. The other thing is that the report has shifted the burden of proof to the FBI. So to your question, can people trust it? Like, is there a different set of rules for people if you are part of the establishment or the government or on the Democratic side? Because not only do you have this situation with the Russia hoax, you have the Hunter Biden investigation that has been going on for so long, and the security apparatus that tried to bury the laptop and succeeded, along with the media, and now reports that the IRS is reassigning the whistleblower on the Hunter Biden thing. So you have to start wondering if there is two systems.
You know, Geraldo, what is the realistic solution going forward here? The American people have lost faith in the criminal justice system. And I find it fascinating that the left was saying all this money for the Durham report. What about all the money for the Mueller report, where they hired all their friends and came up with nothing but tried to make it sound like something that we now know from the Inspector General, and Durham was really nothing?
I think the biggest significance of this is that it is an official acknowledgement after years of probing that Donald Trump did not collude with Russia. There was never any collusion. That's the bottom line. And we can't lose sight of that in all of the noise about politics. There was never a golden shower with a hooker in Moscow. It was all made up. The Steele dossier was bought and paid for by Democrats. And the overarching effect of it all is that not only did it erode our faith in government generally, but it was a very profound, pointed attack at Donald Trump, and it almost got him. He was rattled in the early days. This sabotaged the early days of his presidency, and I think William Barr coming on as Attorney General is what saved the Trump presidency. But this was a real vicious, all-out, very effective attack on the newly elected president, and it almost succeeded.
So you think William Barr is the hero here?
I do. I think he's the most honest man in Washington.
Now, I would say that there's no one who could have withstood what Donald Trump did, and I don't know that he was so rattled. He withstood more than anyone could. But you know what? Wrap it up, Tyrus.
Well, we American people, we've been catfished. That's what it is. This is a catfish. We had a picture of a beautiful model that was supposedly Russian interference, and turns out it was not. It was a short, ugly, lying person who made a lot of money making up lies. That's what the bottom line is. And we can't fix it. They're not, all the people that did it have jobs, and they also have the ability to oversee to make sure that they don't get in trouble, and they're in the right administration. So what the American people, we have to do is we have to remember this come vote time. You need to remember that there was a quiet coup on the last administration over 2 years, and they all made millions of dollars. So vote them out of office. They'll be fine, because they have the money, but we can't rely on someone in government to fix our problems. The only ones who can fix our problems is us, the American people. Vote them out, and that's the only way you're going to get any kind of rightness back and what was a coup. And that is the most horrible, disgusting, but the only evidence, the only thing that matters is the American people. We need to vote the right way next time.
If I could just say one other thing I meant to say that I was thinking of while I was walking down the street today. You know how they always say it's worse than Watergate? This actually truly is worse than Watergate.
Yes,
they
you're
found
right.
something that is.
Quick correction. Pac-Man eats power pellets to get powerful. He eats fruit
not
for
fruit?
points. No, just points.
Oh, it's points.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Jesse knew that.
Thanks so
cherries.
much,
Yeah, right.
everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.